Well, greetings, my friends and my fellow modelers, and I welcome you to another video. And this video is going to be a vintage model. Well, kind of vintage. I recently did a video of the history of the Cutty Sark, and I'll put the link in the description if you want to learn more about this beautiful clipper ship. But today I want to show you guys, yes, it is the Cutty Sark, but this is the AIRFIX version. Vintage classic. So this is the reissue of the Cutty Sark, and look at this beautiful vessel. It's absolutely beautiful ship, built in 1869 and launched in 1870. And I'll also show you guys something that's been associated with the Cutty Sark in an indirect way, a company that's been around for a very long time and actually got their notoriety from the ship. So let's go over to the desk where there's some more room and there's more light, and I'll show you guys the AIRFIX Cutty Sark. Okay, so we got a lot more room on the desk. You guys can see the big beautiful illustration of the box art, and with AIRFIX they usually have beautiful box art. Kit number A09253V, and this is 1/130 scale. And before we get into the model, you guys may have seen this bottle before, you may have not. During the course of my life, I remember seeing it every once in a while. I didn't really know a lot about it, and to be honest, I really never even really knew what it was. But this is a blend. It's blended Scotch whiskey. And this is distilled, blended, and bottled in Scotland. And they use the Cutty Sark. And this label has become pretty iconic. And this company has actually been around a real long time. And they can thank this lovely lady for much of their success with this product. And in fact, there's so much history to this whiskey, this Scotch, that I think I'm going to do a video on this, because I was checking out the website and I saw a history video on this company that creates this, and I think it would be a good video for fellow history buffs if you're interested. And of course they didn't have that back then. You can find us on Facebook, Cutty Sark Blend. I don't know if I've ever seen a bottle of alcohol that had a Facebook page on it, but this is a product of Scotland. Edrington Distillers, Gaslow. Anyway, you see that nice, the spirit of adventure, and you can see the compass. But yeah, I wanted to just run this by you guys because this is pretty iconic, and it's iconic because of that lovely lady. And there's raised letters. It says, "Our actions define who we are." All right, that being said, let's take a look at the ship. Let's take a look at the box. You can see the ends have the beautiful illustration, and this again is a re-release. This is the Cutty Sark, kit number A09253V, and this is in 1/130 scale, and I do believe it's the same on both ends of the box. Yes, it is. Looking at the side, let's see if there's a date. That's probably going to be on the other side. But the length of this model kit is 520 millimeters. It's 140 millimeters wide, and there are 220 pieces. Contents may vary from those illustrated. And it gives some information on this beautiful kit. The mold tools were made in 1967. A pack illustration by Brian Knight in 1967. So this is from 1967. Brian Knight is the artist who painted this absolutely beautiful picture. Enjoy the nostalgia with AIRFIX Vintage Classics. A Cutty Sark is a short Chemise, it comes from a poem by Robbie Burns, Tam O'Shanter. When Tam, a young lad, sees some witches dancing in the woods, one of them whom is wearing a very revealing Cutty Sark. Now, a Cutty Sark is actually the term for like a short shirt or a sexy short dress that a woman is wearing. It's a term in Scotland. Built in Dumbarton, is the best known of all clippers. In her heyday, was the fastest of them all. She could carry 32,000 square feet of sail, giving her a maximum speed of over 17 knots. And for a sailing vessel, that's pretty fast. Employed in the tea trade, she was used to speed the new season's crop from China to London, where the crews hoped to gain prestige of being the first back. And they would actually, at the beginning, they would actually get bonuses for being the first back. Since 1957, she has been in dry dock in Greenwich, London, attracting visitors from all around the world. This much-loved ship was almost destroyed by a major fire in 2007, but has been fully restored. Interesting fact about the fire, they had dismantled all the boat decks, a lot of the original wood. They had dismantled it and they had stored it in other locations because it was being preserved. So when the fire hit, they had put new planks on, so the fire burnt that. The masts, they replaced the mast, the rigging, and actually, as it works out, 96% of the ship was dismantled in other locations during the blaze. So that worked out fantastic for this lovely lady. And you can see Humbrol, not included, but you can see the paint and the glue. And this is a 4 and a skill level, like I said, a 4, and you can see their website, AIRFIX.com. So let's check out the other side. And this should have the date on it, 2018. And you can see the warning, not suitable for children under 36 months. I can't imagine a child under 3 would be making a model kit anyway, but let alone this. Cutty Sark is a shortcut. Okay, so I already read you that. That's the same information. So why don't we go ahead and we'll break the seal, because the AIRFIX has, there's no plastic wrap. It just has the tape that's sealing it. And a little bit more room on the desk. Okay, so it looks like we have one bag, and on the bottom we have a sheet that has the sails on it, and then under that is the instructions. All right, let's check out the bag first. And we got a sealed bag. And again, guys, this is the re-release. This isn't the original. So let's open it. All right, I think the first thing that I see is the tool used to make the rigging, or the rat lines. This will come in handy. You can see this is actually the ruler. And you use this to actually make the rat lines. So that'll be pretty fun. You can see it making the long rat lines as well as the short ones. And there actually looks like there's 2 pieces on here. So we'll learn more in the instructions. And let's get right to it. We get right to, look at that. Look at the starboard side of the hull of the ship. Beautiful. And the bottom, from the waterline down, it actually is plated with metal. If memory serves, it's 60% copper, 40% zinc, and trace of iron. And what this did was, this helped to repel the barnacles. because barnacles, even 10% of a ship that's covered in barnacles, the ship has to exert an additional 50% power just to get the compensation to get back to where she would be normally. But this one has the hull. You can see where the bulkheads are going to go. This will be a really fun build. You can see all of the masts and the sails, the cross beams. And yeah, this is going to be really fun. The color of the plastic, it's a little bit lighter. Of course, it'll have to be painted, but that's okay. It'll be really fun. So that's the first piece. Let's check out. Looks like the second one that we got is the deck. You can see the bottom where the supports are going to be. And you can see the cargo hatches. And look at the deck. You can see the wood grain. And all the hatches. So this is going to be pretty fun, and we'll do, I'm actually going to do a tutorial on how to paint a wooden deck to make it look like wood. Because I've been holding off on doing the Titanic, the 1/400 scale from Technic, only because I've been trying to look for a wooden deck to go on it, and they don't make it. Nothing is compatible, and there is no 1/400 scale wooden deck. So I've been doing some research on how to actually paint the decking, and I think we're going to practice on this model before we go into the Titanic Technic from Revell, because that's an expensive, much more expensive kit than this one. And you can see, look at the lifeboats. We've got the canvas tops too, and I'll show you guys inside the lifeboats. Little benches, and it actually looks like the and it looks like some of the ladders got, well, not really damaged. Yeah, I guess it was because of all the pieces hanging off it in the mold. But they look okay. They'll just have to be cleaned up. You can see where the lifeboats are going to go. And I'm not sure what these are. We'll find out in the instructions. And again, you can see where the ropes are going to come down to suspend the lifeboats. And look, they actually have oars. It's a nice little touch that goes into the lifeboats. And because I was wondering what that was below the davits, they're actually oars. So that's a nice little touch. And I'm thinking these will be railings, but again, we'll find out in the instructions. And again, that's the main deck. All right, looks like we're going to have the other half of the hull, and this is the port side. You can see that beautiful front that's etched in gold, and I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. It does have the Cutty Sark etched into it. So hopefully we can get that to detail up nice with the gold. And again, the planking and the plating that's on the bottom below the waterline. And what they did in Greenwich in London, it's actually pretty cool, pretty ingenious. What they did was they made a building, a glass building, and they built it. The roof comes up around the ship, around the waterline. Below the waterline, you can see the beautiful hull. And one of the reasons they did that was you can see all of the ship, you can see the bottom, but this keeps it out of the ocean. where the corrosiveness and you know, the effects of the seawater won't be devastating the ship, and hopefully she can last a lot more many more years to have people enjoy going to see her. Again, this is the port side, and we have more of the cross beams on the masts, and that looks like that could be the bowsprit. I'm not sure. We'll find out. All right, what's next? Looks like we got the base, the standard AIRFIX type of base. You can see where the keel is going to rest. There's going to be supports to keep the ship on the base. And this is a nice touch. I like this. We got the rigging. And there's another spool in there. So I think one's going to be for the rigging and one's going to be for the rat lines. Nice. Alright, what do we got? Okay. We got a lot of small pieces, and we have the name. Cutty Sark, 1869. And it looks like the poop decking. Let's see if it's yeah, if you look close, you can see the planking and the plastic. And again, I'm going to do a little tutorial on how to make the decks look like wood, how we're going to paint them. And you can see the rudder. Interesting fact about the rudder of the Cutty Sark, when she was returning, she was actually in competition with another ship to be first back to London, and coming around the southern tip of Africa, as she made the turn up into the South Atlantic, she ended up having rudder issues, and they lost the rudder. So the captain knew that if they had gone into dry dock, they would certainly lose and not get the bonus. So what they did was they actually refit. They put a new rudder, and as history recalls, there was a stowaway on board that was, he grew up around a smithy, and he actually showed the crew how to build a forge on deck. And the carpenter ended up, well, the whole crew actually finished the rudder, and they actually put it on while at sea. And the national, I think is the English Board of Trade, well, they were so impressed with his technique that they made that the instructions to follow, and they made it official on how to put a new rudder on while at sea, as opposed to going to dry dock. And you can see this is where all the rat lines are going to be attached. You see the holes. So this is going to be pretty fun. You can see the cabins, the boathouse walls. Nice. And it looks like, yeah, these look like the bulkheads for inside the ship. All right, what else we got in here? It looks like this piece had fallen off, so this looks like it's the yeah, forecastle. And you can see where the bowsprit's going to go. You can see the wood grain. And looks like we have one more tree, and there's other loose parts in there, but let's look at this first. Right off the bat, you notice the ship's wheel and the anchors. And we have more parts for the rigging. I don't know if that's what they use for the anchor. We'll find out. We have a lot of smaller parts. Looks like the cover for the one of the hatches. Nice. Looks like one of the bollards. Well, that could be the only bollard on the ship. We'll see. But that's the last large sprue, and there are a bunch of pieces that came off. So let me just get these out so I can show them all to you. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, I'm not quite sure what this is. This actually could be the roof of the boathouse or the deck house on the poop deck. And looks like we got one of the walls for that deck house. And looks like this is one of the supports that are going to go into the stand or base to support the ship. Let's see. I'm not quite sure what this is. This could be for the bow. Looks like it could be some of the gold that's around the bow of the ship near the bowsprit, but we'll see. And you can see I'm not sure if these are vents, but these are both identical pieces. And I don't believe they're benches. They're probably vents, because you can see the lines on top, so I'm not quite sure what those are for. And that's everything that's in the bag. So let's take a look at the sails. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the original model kit, but basically the same molds. And again, the Cutty Sark has 32,000 square feet of sail. Think about that. 32,000. And I like what they offer you. You can make the sails wound up and tied with the rigging. We got another one here. And you can make them billowing, which is a real nice touch. And you can see they're all lettered. I wonder if one of the sails is going to be tied off, because I know in a main mast there are six sails, right? How about the illustration? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 on the main mast. We got the 4, but we don't have the 6. So perhaps one of the other ones will go for that, or one is going to be tied off. But we'll see. We'll see in the instructions. Anyway, that is the sheet, and it's vacuum formed. And this is a lot thicker than a lot of ones that I have seen and showed you guys. I think I showed you guys the Bounty, and that was almost paper thin. This plastic is a lot thicker. Okay, now the only thing left are the instructions, and I don't think that there are decals for this. Oh, spoke too soon. They're not decals per se. It looks like they're peel and stick stickers. We have the British flag, and I'm not sure what that flag represents. I'm not familiar with the Royal Navy, but it comes with 2 flags. And are they on the illustration? No, but they'll be in the instructions. Okay, we look at the instruction sheet. And the clipper ships, especially those of the second half of the 19th century, were probably the most beautiful ships ever built, and represented the peak of design in the age of sail. The Cutty Sark, named after the short chemise worn by Robert Burns' witch Nanny, is the best known of all the clippers. and in her heyday was the fastest of them all. She was built on the Clyde in 1869 for Captain John Willis, who was a famous Scott ship owner, and was designed expressively to outsail the clipper, the Thermopylae, launched the year before. She was of composite construction and wrought iron frame and hardwork planking, and only the very best materials were employed. In fact, the materials and workmanship were so good that the original builders went bankrupt, and she had to be completed by a neighboring yard. She was only 212 feet long overall and had a registered tonnage of 921 tons, but she could carry 32,000 square feet of sailing, giving her a maximum speed of over 17 knots. She was built as a China clipper for the tea trade, a high speed being necessary in order for the new season's crop to be delivered to London, and first so in command a premium price. And again, they had a bonus. Each year the voyage from China was a race, with the crews being driven hard by their captains in the hopes of winning the money and prestige that came from being the first one home. By 1895, the clippers would no longer compete with steamships, and the Cutty Sark was sold to Portuguese company. For years, she was in Portuguese service as a humble tramp, being re-rigged as a barkentine in 1916. In June 1922, Cutty Sark finally came back to England, having been bought by Captain Dowman, a retired sales shipmaster. The nautical she served and was restored in her original condition and rig, and in 1938 presented to the Thames Nautical Training College at Greenhithe as a training ship. In 1952, the Cutty Sark Preservation Society was formed, and finally in 1957 installed a dry berth at Greenwich. Also, it didn't refer to it, but when she was no longer doing the tea run, she did tramping for a while, and then she actually refound herself as a ship that established herself again in the wool trade. So instead of going from China to London with tea, she started going from Australia to London with the loads of wool. And you can see the assembly instructions, study the drawings before assembly, and to apply the sheet, the painting, and things like that. The icons for assembly. And we finally get over to step 1. And you can see where the boathouses are going to be constructed. And the bulkheads are going in, and the bowsprit. And looks like the bulkheads going into the hull, as well as the base being formed. So think about it, there's a lot to do in this step, especially since we're going to paint it, and we're going to paint the base and all these individual pieces. Before we do anything, we've got to paint the deck to make it look more like wood. So there's a lot in that first step. The second step looks like the completion of the wheel. Let's go on the back. It's going to go on the back of that structure. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is. But then you can see step 3. I'm not sure if that's a vent or just a doorway that's going to lead down below deck. And then we have the forecastle. You can see a couple of ladders or steps, or actually that could be railings. We'll see. And then we got the formation of the lifeboats. So I guess it gives you the option. You can either put the oars in. So I think what we'll do is we got 2 of these. So we'll do one with the cover, and we'll do one with the oars where it's open, where we can see the detail on the inside. And you can see how the lifeboats are going to go together, the other 2. And moving on to the next page, you can see we're putting in the forecastle deck. You can see the pieces that are going to go around the bowsprit. And back at the poop deck after the ship, you can see how the a lot of the pieces are going to come together. Now, I was thinking that that was going to go on the bow. It actually is going to go on the stern. She's very ornate. And you can see we're putting in the hatch cover. And again, I think that's a staircase to go below deck. That little doorway. And we have these little walls that are going to go on. That looks like the walls in the... Yeah, again, to lead inside to the ship. And looking at step 10, you can see more of the detail now is going to go on the deck. I'm not quite sure what those are, but could be the staging or the frame to support the lifeboats. And you can see step 11, and you can see the formation. We got the railing that's going to go on the side, and we have the parts that the rigging or the rat lines are going to connect to. And then again, you can see where we're going to put the lifeboats. And those are going to go in on the side of the davits. We have put the davits in place already, so. And steps 12, 13, and 14 are all about creating the masts and some of the railings that are going to go on the platforms. I don't think they're crow's nests because they're not closed in, but they could be. I'm not quite sure what they're called formally. And you can see how they're going to go into place. They kind of look like the old style TV antennas. At least that's what they remind me of. And you can see the ship starting to come together. And we're going to put on the nameplate, the anchors, the masts. And now we move on to the rat lines. C1, C2, and C3 are all on the top. C4, 5, and 6 are the midway point, and C7, 8, and 9 are the ones on the bottom, and those are going to be connected to the plastic parts. And you can see it actually gives you a table. The table for making the shrouds. So luckily it gives you all the measurements, the table, so we can use this to use with the rigging. And step 17, you can see the rigging, the table of the rigging. Thread lengths are given in centimeters. The thread lengths in this table are given with an allowance of approximately 10 centimeters beyond the length necessary in order to allow easy securing to the various endpoints. To give the rigging and shrouds more realistic color, soak them in very strong tea for 24 hours. That's interesting. A lot of rigging. Okay, now, once the ship is assembled and we have the masts in place, and all the rigging and the rat lines are up, now we start to think about the sails. And yeah, it's exactly what I thought. There are 6 sails on the main mast, but you can see the bottom one, it's not being used. It's up in the rigging. Same thing with all of them. So the bottom sails on all 3 masts are tied. And then you can see the illustration of the sheet, the vacuum formed sealing sheet of the sails. And it shows you how to do the rigging. You know, this might be worth noting to you guys. Yeah, this is important information for the model and the success of the model. So I'm going to tell you guys in more detail what we're going to do with this. So that's very important information, and if you want to make it accurate, and let's face it, you're going to go through all the trouble. We're going to work on the model. We're going to make it look as best as we can. You got to put the rat lines, the rigging, and every single centimeter of rigging and thread has to go on. It's just going to bring out the model and make it look finished. It'd make it look less like a toy and more of a model. And on the last page, we have the paint guide. You can see the gloss service brown. And that would be on the top. It's that nice dark, deep, rich, almost a black kind of brown. And you can see this is the copper. That's actually going to go from the waterline down. And then we have the matte black. It's going to be for the tops of the houses and the cargo hatches. And then we have the matte sand. And that's what they want us to use for the decks, but I'm going to use, like I said, we're going to make the decks look like decks. So we're going to use a different color scheme. I'm not going to use these. We're going to do some using the ship as she is today as reference points for the painting. But anyway, that is the instruction sheet. And this has been the reissue of the Cutty Sark. And this is the 2018 reissue of this magnificent ship. And I hope you enjoy this little video presentation. And I'll be sharing the video for this with you guys. And you can see since 1923. So this has been around a while, and it's got a lot of its popularity from this beautiful lady. So my friends, I thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, or when we start the build, I'll talk to you soon.